Find something bigger than yourself. Ordinary Angels was directed by John Gunn, who's done some religious-themed movies. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. This was written by Meg Tilly, who's had a number of roles throughout her career, including playing Mary in Psycho 2 Electric Norman. Norman? I told you to stop bothering, I guess. Oh, you've always been such a difficult boy. No, take your hands off me, Boogaloo Shaft. No, Mother, how do you know who Tom Boogaloo Shaft is? And oh, Mother, blood! Blood! Yeah, somebody that was in Psycho 2. You know, the sequel that came a number of years after the 1960 classic and a few years after the death of Alfred Hitchcock, one of my favorite directors of all time. Don't read up how he handled his female co-stars. Let's just say this. Alfred Hitchcock, as great of a director as he was, had a dark cloud hanging over him. But yeah, they decided, hey, Anthony Perkins, we know that Norman Bates defined your career. You're trying to get away from that and do other stuff, but please come back. Baby, come back. And he did. So we got Psycho 2. We also got 2 other Psycho sequels. Why? I don't fucking know. But yes, Meg Tilly was in that. And there's one more rider. Wait, who could it be? Well, let's check the notes. And oh, it's Kelly Fremon Craig. And one more time, Kelly Fremon Craig. Who could that possibly be? The name might sound familiar. If you've seen The Edge of 17, she did that. And she also did something else. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. One of my favorite movies of 2023. Even with God in the title, even with the religious overtones about it, the fact that it let young women decide, you know, what they want to be, go through the changes of womanhood, and choose to be religious or choose not to be religious. You can have the choice, and you don't have to have it beaten over your goddamn head. Anyway, so yeah, Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. Abby Ryder Fortson, goddamn great. Girl's going to be a goddamn superstar. She's going to do such great things. And you had other great performances. You have Rachel McAdams, who, yes, is old enough to play a mother. I know, Time is a Flat Circle, and whoo boy, geez, the fact she's old enough to play a mother, I can't believe it. And Kathy Bates as her Jewish guilt-ridden grandmother. Sign me the fuck up. But yes, it's goddamn great. Absolutely check this out. But yes, it's a movie with God in the title that actually lets you just understand the subject matter and tells a good story. This is based on a true story, by the way, of a young girl named Michelle. Miss Michelle Schmidt. It's the Schmidt family. They're up Schmidt Creek without a paddle because basically Michelle needs a liver. If they decide to live her alone, then basically, unlike what, Stu went through, yeah, Michelle ain't going to make it all that far. This is set in Louisville, Kentucky in 1993, and it actually is based on a true story. If you Google this, you will discover the true stories. If you're familiar with the true story, none of this stuff will really surprise you. Maybe you'll realize that certain things were like taken out and maybe they add certain things. I don't know. I just read up a little bit about it. I was like, okay, all right, it's legit because I don't goddamn know. Anytime I see something based on a true story, I cringe a little bit because you have to wonder how much of a true story it actually is. But yes, the Schmidt family. After the mother passes away after giving birth to Michelle, already given birth to the other child, Ashley, then the mother dies. And basically Ed, played by Alan Ritchson, that is, forgive me, I was thinking of Alan Rickman. It would be very difficult for Alan Rickman to have anything to do with this movie. We have to go Weekend at Bernie style. Nevertheless, let's get away from that. Let's just get away from that. And let's talk about this movie. So yeah, Hilary Swank of $1 Million Baby fame and also of The Reaping. Remember The Reaping? Remember how awful that was? Hilary Swank is much better than The Reaping. She has been great in other stuff, and she is a terrific actress. She plays Sharon, who, after basically having an awakening, so to speak, after going through some struggles of her own, realizes, hey, wait a second, I need to rectify some things in my life, but also I realize I have a purpose. I want to help out the Schmidt family, and she does everything from cutting hair at her salon along with her friend Rose, played by Tamala Jones, and they raise some money. That's not going to come close to paying off the medical bills, though, because the medical, the medical stuff in this whole thing, medical insurance and medical costs in this country are bullshit. Even if you have insurance, they're pretty much bullshit. Nevertheless, there is a friend of mine, I will not name names, I will just say that they have certain medical conditions, and they told me that if they didn't have that, it would be costly. It would be very costly. It would be in the 7 figures for what they have gone through. And I want to say that is one of my best goddamn friends, and I'm so happy they're still here. So, Basically, the whole thing about organ donation, it's a overhanging theme, the medical debts and all that, and basically Hilary Swank does her best Erin Brockovich impression, just in a PG environment, and also, there's enough sap in this movie that basically a forest full of trees stretching for 10 goddamn miles in all directions could not come close to matching. No, seriously, it's actually frightening how much sap there is in this and how syrupy sweet it is. And look, I want to say right now, the cast, they do fine. They do fine with the fact that this is basically a Lifetime movie or Up TV, whatever that religious one is. Maybe this could have been on the Christian Broadcasting Network. And Fritz von Erich could have said, "One day all my boys will be NWA World Heavyweight Champions." A terrible Fritz von Erich impression, by the way, but if you're a deep cut wrestling fan, you will laugh. So, yeah, the Erin Brockovich comparisons I just couldn't unsee. And Hilary Swank is really good. And Julia Roberts is also great in Erin Brockovich. She was also allowed to swear. And I'm sorry, but this was... Look, the girls that play, the actresses that play the little girls, Ashley Skywalker Hughes. Yeah, Skywalker. That's 16 Death Stars. That's no moon. It's a space station. Molly Ringwald in the Star Wars movie is what I want to see. And Michelle, who's the afflicted girl, is played by Emily Mitchell. Again, the cast does what they can, but I'm just going to say right now that they might as well have just handed everybody a Bible and said, every time this movie gets pretentious, cliched, and bullshit, hit yourself in the head. You would have suffered brain damage within the first 10 minutes. Again, I don't mind if movies have a religious connotation about it. Again, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. That's the good kind. Or you could go nefarious. I don't know if this is necessarily as bad as nefarious because this is stepping out of my comfort zone. This is a drama based on a true story. And I only say that because, look, they had to have taken certain liberties with it. And everybody bands together. They have nothing else to do but band together and save this girl. And that's great. That's a great story. And it is great because this little girl, and I'm sorry, these are a little bit of spoilers right here. The little girl actually grew up and still is alive. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. That's great. That's great. Proves organ donations work. And she is able to have a full life. And great. That's great stuff. The problem is the movie isn't interesting. It's almost 2 hours and it's just freaking ridiculous. It's just ridiculously sappy and stupid and bland. Most importantly, bland. The comedy, the attempts at comedy, I'm sorry, people in the theater were laughing. And yeah, Nancy Travis is coming to get you, Barbara. Like, yeah, there were funny exchanges. I guess if you've never seen a movie before. But really, this just had the feel of like, hey, we're just going to make this as bland as possible, as generic as possible. And sure, you would do anything for your child. You would do anything for a loved one that is very close to you. The problem is none of this. There's no stakes in this movie. If you know how the story turns out, there's no real stakes. Yeah, the performances aren't even that great. I mean, the actors are fine, but the movie itself, it just seems like, it was directed by somebody that sustained several major head injuries or was drinking the goddamn Kool-Aid. If only the people that put this movie together had decided to maybe go with a certain type of Kool-Aid from People Play Games, my friend. Kid, Dad, that's mean. Nobody will get that, fortunately. I hope not. This movie isn't good. This movie is really, really rotten. Really rotten, really sappy, and really bland. Most importantly, bland. As good as the cast tries to do, it's just not good. I'm going to get into spoilers just so you know, so that's your warrant. It's in theaters this weekend if you want to check it out. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, in the beginning, there was rap, as our Lord and Savior Dr. Dre once said. Hilary Swank goes out partying. Boot Scoot and Boogie by Brooks and Dunn plays. That gave me some flashbacks. I remember driving back from, I believe, Anacortes, or I think it might even been Whidbey, or further on Whidbey Island with my dad. That came on the radio, and we were listening to it, and it was great. And I'm just grateful for memories like that. My parents are fine, by the way, I just want to say, but I enjoy memories like that. That gave me a little twinge of nostalgia. Okay, Hilary Swank dancing on a bar isn't necessarily something I wanted to see, but it is what it is. She's an alcoholic, and it turns out she has a lot of stuff in her past. Her friend gets her to go to AA. That doesn't necessarily end up holding, even though she decides to try and live in a good way, sees the newspaper stuff about Michelle, and decides they're up Schmidt Creek without a paddle. I already said that, but I'm just going to say it again. She decides to help out. in the beginning, really in the beginning, the Big Bang happened, and then the Big Bang Theory came along, and I wish that comedy had just died. Hate that show. But yes, Ed, the daughter is born, the mother dies, and now it's Louisville, Kentucky, 1993, where a lot of shit happened. Bad, series of tornadoes, a bad snowstorm. Read up on Louisville 1993 weather. You might be surprised. That being said, Ed's a roofer. The roof is on fire. He's doing whatever he can. Sharon comes up with a way to do a haircut fundraiser, $3,000 to give to them, $3,200 something, but that isn't going to be enough. She decides to immediately integrate herself into their lives. The mother's there to help as much as possible. The mother of Ed, that is, and so the grandmother of the children. And Michelle keeps suffering from these illnesses because her liver is basically, I forget what the name of the illness is, I don't care. But basically Sharon is like coming up with all these bills and all this stuff, and she ends up working on this and talking to corporate sponsors and getting all this money and giving ways to basically raise money and take care of that. And that's noble, that's great, because medical costs in this country are bullshit, especially if you get sick. The problem is then it just goes totally goddamn ridiculously tits up. She's talking to the people at the hospital and says, I need you to wipe out all this debt. What? All of it. Like, her mother didn't get any better. You saddled her with a big bill that they're saddled with, and now the daughter's going to die, and they can't afford this stuff and everything. And for some reason, I don't know if she collectively, decided to slap them until they agreed to it. I don't know if these people all keeled over and Hillary Swank took over the hospital and decided to just, forgive the debt on her own. I'm going to go with that because it's a lot funnier. But yeah, they forgive all the debt and everything, but then they still have the medical costs and all the stuff, and now they're on the donor list. But then a snowstorm hits. Oh no! Snowstorm hits. And this is right after, by the way, the snowstorm hits right after Hillary Swank basically has talked to her son several times. She calls him on the phone. She talks to him in person at a bar. Hey, Derek! I couldn't help but hear that. His name is Derek, by the way. She didn't have the best relationship with him. She was a single mother. She didn't handle it all that well, and she was drinking a lot and everything. And he decided to go out on his own, down the only chode he's ever known. And she can't forgive herself, even though she had lived in a good way. She was neglecting her hair salon stuff. All the stuff, all the comedy, by the way, still hits with a resounding thud, a resounding goddamn thud, so hollow that you would think it was a tree that was hollowed out for 100 years. In fact, I would rather, put this movie in a tree that was hollowed out, over 100 years, and perhaps just maybe burn that, set the tree on fire, so maybe John Gunn can figure out how to make a good movie instead of one that's filled with religious bullshit. That being said, she does end up succumbing to drinking, and then she's sent away, basically, even though she's really good with the kids. And she has done a lot of good raising the money, getting the medical debt taken out. But then the snowstorm hits, and then all of a sudden, the liver is available in Omaha. Peyton Manning, what are you doing here? Basically, they got to find a way to get there. And then everybody's got to, all these roads are shut down, all this stuff. And you read up on it, it's a pretty goddamn brutal snowstorm, but they somehow there was a news report that was done at the house before Hillary Swank decided to drink. I know her name's Sharon. I don't care. She decided to, do that to get the story out. So now the news reports are doing all this, stuff where they're getting, the story out. And Hillary had also managed to somehow get secure access to like 5 different private planes for when they're able to go. But then the snow hits. Now they got to drive there. Rose has a whole bunch of people at her disposal, about 42 cousins, according to her. Apparently Jackie Robinson was a very popular number in the house. If you get it, you get it. I apologize. I'm having some allergies. I do apologize right there. But Ed's driving through snow in a one-horse open Bronco, and it's taking Michelle there, and then they get stuck. There's this tree he can't move and everything. He's all upset. The time has run out. He's going to call his call box and say, give the liver to somebody else. I'm not going to be able to make it. Not going to be able to make it to the airport and everything. It's a snowstorm. And then there's also access to this helicopter. They need to get access to this helicopter. They get access to the helicopter. This guy's did a bunch of missions in Saigon, apparently, and he's just going to show up and do this because he's got nothing better to do. Good for him. I'm glad he survived that. But nevertheless, A couple of, the family members of Rose managed to get Ed and Michelle, they managed to get to this area at the church where they managed to just go back and find their faith. If it fixes you, fine, but religion is bullshit to me. So, nevertheless, they managed to clear out all this stuff, put the jackets down, and then, for landing and everything. And the overriding theme was Michelle was called Butterflies. So she sees these butterflies flying up like these jackets because the kid's delirious, because the kid's about to die, because the kid's body's betraying her. And then they get in there, and then the kid's fine. The kid's fine. They show some stuff from the old newsreels and all that and everything. Old newsreels. I make it sound like it's from the 1930s. But yeah, old news reports. And everybody remains friends to this day. Hooray. F. He gets an F. It's fucking terrible. How dare you? How very dare you call yourself a movie? It's an inspirational story. It's not a good movie. It gets an F. Just saying. Agree, disagree, what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.